YouTubies. Got the little GoPro sitting here on a portable handheld thingamabobby, and just got done installing a GFCI plug for the wife over by the new barn over where her trailer will be parked, so that she can run something, you know, electrical, whatever. So we were talking on the channel not too long ago. Lightning hit our horse fence and kind of zapped it, and was able to repair the damage to it, but not quite getting the voltage out of it that I'd like. And so I thought maybe the controller was going bad, and we jumped up on YouTube and Google and started looking to see if there was a quick way to test it, and really isn't. So I figured I'd do a real quick informative video. Obviously, if you've got horse, cattle, electric fencing, one of these puppies is a godsend. It is a digital electric fence tester. When you YouTube cattle fencing, they don't really give you a whole lot of detail. They don't tell you, you know, what kind of voltage that a typical fence puts out. So, you know, if you do a real quick Google search on how much voltage does a horse fence put out, they don't tell you if it's DC or AC or blah blah blah. I can tell you that if it's AC, it's gonna be in the thousands of volts. So a typical voltmeter won't work for you. Matter of fact, if you put a voltmeter to it, you'll probably smoke it. So you need one of these, and this is a fence tester up to 19.9 kilovolts. So basically 19.9, you know, thousand volts. And basically it works. Let me put you down. Hopefully it'll get you here. But basically it works. It's digital. This one's a digital readout, and it has a grounding rod and the two prongs. And so basically, you know, you stick it in the ground, you get a good ground to it. Sometimes it'll pick up voltage off of you. Today it's not going to do that with me, but basically you put that on the ground, then stick your wiring between the two prongs, kind of twist it a little bit, and you'll get a meter reading. What I'm going to do here real quick is I'm going to put this on the actual controller, and we'll see how much my controller's putting out. So I'm going to move you guys around a little bit. Don't get seasick. So here's our controller. It's a 50-mile controller, and you'll see that it's flashing. It tells you it's sending the pulse out about once every second and a half. It sends out voltage, and of course you have your hot and you have your ground. Now we have what we call an earth ground. Go back to the reason behind the video, the fence tester. So don't know how much the controller's putting out just off the top of my head, but I've got it wired so that when I put insulation and sheetrock up in here, it gets its power from 120 volts, and then the control wires for the fence I've actually temporarily taped and ran through this little item, and then from there it comes out, stubs through the wall. There's a junction box outside the wall, then it goes underground, runs over to the fence. It's about 40 feet, stubs out of the pipe, and then of course powers our entire property. So what we're going to do here real quick is we're going to throw a meter on there and see how much this puppy's putting out. So hang loose. I'm going to be off camera. I don't know if you can see me. Can't see a whole lot of anything. Don't know if it's a good place for the camera. But before you ever even touch this thing, whether it be outside in the fence line or inside on the controller, be smart. Unplug it. You don't need to get zapped. But there are two screws. I don't know if the camera can pick this up or not. There are two screws on the controller. One is ground and one goes to fence. And best way to describe this is one's hot and one's ground. So it's got little plastic caps on it, so you don't get your butt zapped if you accidentally touch it. Before you do anything, unplug it from the wall, remove your caps, lay them off to the side, and you're going to notice that I'm going to remove the terminals of the fence. So the fence is completely down. The horses are out in the pasture right now. They don't know that I've taken this fence off. They've been zapped enough to know, you know, that it's strong. So they stay away from it. But what I want to do is I want to measure how much this puppy's putting out. And how you do that is you get yourself, again, like I said, a fence tester. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the ground up against the ground terminal. Notice my display. I don't know if you can see that or not. My display automatically pipes out the fact that it's got 0.98. Now, I'm going to hold it up to the prongs. Actually, I'm going to wait a minute. Let it reset. Okay, it's picking me up. Okay, so here at the controller, I'm getting a steady 9.3 on the LED, and I don't think the camera can pick that up. But 9.3, if that camera can pick it up. So roughly what that means is it's putting out 9,300 volts. Okay, 9,300 volts. Now, you've probably been taught all your life that 120 volts will kill you. Well, 120 volts of AC power will definitely zap you and get your attention real quick. How people get electrocuted is by amperage, not by voltage, but by amperage. So you could have 120 volts and not have anything plugged into it, no load, no nothing, and get zapped. And it's enough to make you go, oh crap, and you let go, and problem solved. Where you get electrocuted is when amperage, when you have a load on it. So let's say hypothetically you have a lamp plugged into that same outlet and you touch naked wires on the lamp and the lamp's turned on. Well, that could kill you. So, you know, obviously when you're farting around with electrics, you want to turn everything off and make sure you don't get zapped. This is 9,000 volts, but it's very, very low amperage. Matter of fact, it only puts out 2 joules. And so what this is designed to do is to zap the crap out of you, or the horse, with lots of voltage, no amperage. It's just enough to make you go, oh crap! But it releases you so that you don't become electrocuted. So you get zapped, and you go, oh, you know, ow! And that's that. So all I've done in the last couple seconds is reattached, grounded hot, put the little screws back on place. Don't go stupid and getting over torquing, but just put them on. Basically, you want to make sure, you know, that your wiring is not loose. Loose obviously builds resistance. Resistance reduces the amount of voltage. So put them on there nice and snug, only snug. And I plug the AC back in, and so you'll see now it is ticking once every 1.5 to 2 seconds. Basically, it's sending a pulse down the line. So we know that it's 9,300 volts right here at these terminals. Okay, so now let's mosey on outside. And you'll see that I have a junction box right there. Inside that junction box, it is a solid wire, so there's no splitting, no nothing. Goes underground. It's ran underground about 6 inches. Comes on over here, stubs up out of the ground, and inside of the little outlet box here, I've got a 120 volt AC plug. The reason I did not make it GFI is there's a GFI inside the shed, so there's no need for that to be GFI as well. But basically 120 volts to here, and that's so that I can plug in a heater for the boys' water trough during the winter. Sometimes it freezes, so we have this little portable heater that can plug in here, and boom. So the horse fence continues up the line, and it comes out and stubs out through the top. Okay, so what I've got here is 1/2 inch PVC with a 1/2 inch cap, drilled a small little hole, and you'll see that I've got standard 14-2 wire running out, hooked to that metal connector, and then that ground goes down. I'm careful not to touch the fence here. Goes down, hits the ground wire, and originally I had the grounding rod right here, and I moved it because of the tree's roots. This tree's roots right here were over here by the fence, and I wasn't getting a good connection, so I moved it into a softer area, round a ground wire, and boom, we got a ground. So what you hear is that ticking. Can you hear it? And I bet you if it was dark, the camera would focus. See that little burn mark on the tape? That's where it's arcing. So we're losing a little bit of power right there, but not enough to make me go, on the further side of the property, I'm averaging 5.25, so I'm averaging 5,250 volts. So I'm losing just under half of the power from the controller to the farthest end of the property, and I need to find out why. This is part of it, this little short, and I'll bet you there's another short over yonder. But what I want to do is I want to measure what this puppy's reading here. How this works again is take the ground, find a good spot in the ground to put it, come up and hold it to your tape. And the tape is currently reading 7.19. So it's 7,190 volts. And we were at 9.3 inside. So I'm losing just about 2,000 volts from the controller to here. And you say, geez, you know, what's going on? That's a good question. I don't know. So let's touch it to metal. Now, here's the bad thing about this controller. You got to wait for it to reset. It takes like 15 seconds for it to reset. Okay, so now it's resetted, and we're going to put it on the connector here. 7.12. It's either going to be resistance on the tape, and the tape is old. This tape is 2 years old, so that could be part of the problem, or it could be shorting out. That's, you know, where we're hearing it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to this side of the tape. I'm going to measure it, and we got 699. So I'm going to say that it's a combination of the connector and a combination of these shorts that I'm seeing. Okay? Now, one thing that I found on Google, in my Google searches, nobody can seem to come up with an agreed upon voltage amount. The one thing they do agree is that 3,000 volts is enough to get a horse's attention. So their average is they wanted you to run between 3,000 and 7,000 volts. 7 will definitely get the horse's attention. 3 is enough to let it remind itself that there's actually a fence there. So if you're below 3,000, you probably ought to really get a stronger controller or figure out a better ground. By the way, see that our garden has gone bonkers with grass and weeds, but the roses are doing fantastic. So anyway, let's push back down here on the fence post. All right, sorry for all the jostling. I don't have one of those fancy cameras on a gimbal. So, and again, remember, your meter is only as good as the ground that you plug it into, so make sure you choose something soft and that's groundable. But here at another tear, we're at 622. So here we are in the driveway of the new barn. It's not completed yet. You guys see that little electrical box out there? That's the subject of my last video. But come over here and we'll do a test on a new section of fence that I just ran 2 days ago. Since we started the barn project, I wanted to give the boys a little more grass. I wanted to give a certain section of the field a rest. And so I rigged this up real temporary. And then I sealed off so they couldn't get in here to the barn. But if they broke through the fence, they really like hanging out over those apple trees. And so I kind of blocked that off just a little bit, give it a rest. But, all right, so just a moment ago I was on the other side of the fence, on the other side of that fig tree, and you'll see that we've got a metal connector feeding that fence, and that upper strand is feeding the bottom strand. So I'm seeing a little bit of sparkage there, a little bit of a short. And I'm hearing a zap right here. So, again, I go back to, I think this entire strand needs to be replaced. Because I'll bet you, if we do the little test here, and guys, I'm sorry, I'm jostling you around. You got to get a good ground. Okay, so we got a decent ground. And now, if we hold to the fence, what do we have? Look at that, 0.85. Can you read that? 0.85 on the bottom strand. 850 volts. That is not enough to get a horse's attention. Let's go test another section. All right, here we go. This is a semi-soft, so oh yeah, that went down pretty easily. Okay, so again, sorry for the jostling. .89, 0.85. Let's let it reset. Reset. Back on the wire. 575, 586. It's not bad, but it needs to be up in the 6s. It needs to be up in the 6s and the 7s. Okay, let's let it reset. Now that bottom strand and the top strand run all the way down there to that section of fence, and they're joined with metal connectors. And that in turn, see, look, the upper one goes right here, bangs a 90, and that upper one goes all the way down there and feeds those strands. This bottom one goes all the way down there and feeds the strands as well. So, nice continuous loop. Okay, waiting for the meter to reset. And we have 521 on the bottom. And this really needs to be up in the 6s and the 7s. So I think I'm going to have the wife rerun the tape. I think fix the connectors, rerun the tape. Because you'll see right here, I mean, it's kind of a hodgepodge connections, you know, it just needs to be a little better than that. Because I'll bet you, if I run, and then look, we've got a connector right here. Okay, we get an arc right there. So let's, just for giggles. God, that's hard as concrete. No real good ground. That's gonna be a bad ground. See the wiring though? See the wire run through the rope? 532, 562. So, again guys, 5 is acceptable, but it really needs to be in the upper 6s and the low 7s, I think. So, anyway, that's enough of me rambling, talking out of my butt. Maybe I'll have the wife look at it while I'm gone, doing a side job. But it's a 50-mile controller, zapper, if you will. Controls all the property, runs all the way down into the playground, controls all that. So you can see my concern where I want it to be in the 7s, and I think the weak spot is that upper strand and that first connection. So I'll leave you with that, and we'll figure out how to fix it shortly. Have a great Labor Day, guys. See ya. on today's episode of In the Creek Without a Paddle.